Sell the metal! Ah!
That's quite the intro for the topic that we have going on tonight on Late Night with Cap. This is JT. How are you all doing? I hope you had a good Thanksgiving. And tonight we're going to talk about a little different, a little special episode. I have two guests, and we've been kind of doing I think some people might think we're a little obsessed with JFK this month in November. But I have my two fellow co-hosts over there after weekend coming on soon, and we're going to talk about JFK and the theories or conspiracy theories around his assassination that happened 60 years ago on October 11/22/60 in 1963. So it'll be fun. I'm excited to do this because, like I said, we've been talking about it all month, just about a show, but it'll be fun to dive into some of the other theories that are out there. And again, I hope everyone had a good one. For December, I'm going to probably have about 2 Christmas show or Christmas holiday type of shows with 2 guests. So look forward to that and keep a lookout for those weird news. So I'm going to go ahead and bring on my 2 guests. Let's see, who should I pick first? I'm going to go with my favorite one. So that's Beard of Liberty here. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing fairly well. Thank you for having me.
I'm excited to talk about these topics. I know we've been focused on really just yes, I am. I know we've been focusing on a just one theory with the 11/22 show. So are you excited to kind of dive deep in some of this stuff or just talk about them?
Oh yeah, I've never really dug too deep into too many of these, but it's always interested me enough that anytime a new theory comes up, it catches my attention.
So, yeah, and you're a Texan, so this is like a thing for you, right? You're supposed to know where all this is.
Kind of a terrible thing for us to be known for, I suppose.
Well, I mean, I don't remember where Abraham Lincoln was assassinated, but I guess you would be linked to that too, right?
Would I?
I don't know.
I don't think it was here.
I don't think it was in Texas. I think it was. We'll get into that. The next guest I have is my second favorite. My co-host over there at After the Weekend, R2. How are you?
I'm good.
You look snazzy. You look happy.
Thanks.
He's got better internet, so it made him happy.
And a newer computer, so.
And a newer computer, and so yeah. Like I asked Beard.
I like how Beard's like, yeah, that Yankee feller died here.
Darn carpetbaggers.
So R2, are you kind of excited or interested in kind of going over some of these theories that we didn't really cover over there at After the Weekend?
I am. I mean, this stuff's always fun. It's something you could really get lost in.
Yeah, it's kind of a rabbit hole. It's fun to a point. It is sad. Someone did pass away. And it was a bummer that it even happened in that day of age. But it happened to quite a few people in that era of the 60s. So it was kind of odd how many, I would say,
at least 4 I can think of.
Yeah, I think. Well, you had JFK, you had his brother Robert, and then you had Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. Those are 4 huge political people in the U.S. at that time, and it was very surprising that it all happened in like a span of 7 years. So it's pretty weird. I don't even know what people would do today if that was if that happened. So there was a lot going on in that time in the 60s. I was not alive. Beard maybe was. I was not.
I'll never tell.
I was going to say it was JFK, then Malcolm X, then I want to say MLK, and then RFK was last.
Yeah, he was last because he did run for president.
68. So actually, in a span of 5 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty wild if you think about it. It's just the country was just going through a real big shift, I think. So there was just a lot of They even had any other things that I've talked about before, like weird cults, groups of people living on out in the middle of nowhere doing things. You had a lot of weirdness around the 60s. So let's see here. I think we should change "Where is Waldo" to "Where is Oswald."
I think you just described where I live because there must be some weird cult in my neighborhood because like every house has the same inflatable Santa out front.
That is weird. Maybe you
And
should get one. But just so you fit
If
in.
you don't get one, they're going to come after you.
I'm just like ho ho ho.
Yeah, just put one out. You just put it out so that you feel like you're not going to get murked one day.
I want to paint Beard's beard white and dress him up as Santa and just have him like hang around in my front yard. Live action Santa.
He could also be a garden gnome.
Yeah.
I'm better at that. Yeah, I'm kind of short.
So apparently we have to really entertain Alaska Jeff. He's asking for footage. He's very intrigued about today's subject. So if anything, we have to entertain him. Good to see you. Thanks for looks like you're listening on your way home from work. So that's fantastic.
Drive safe.
Yeah, drive safe in Alaska. I'm sure it's snowing. And then we have Miss Archidiki. She's
Hello.
also excited. She got a new car. The rumor has it that
she did. It's a new car for us. It's technically not new, but
okay. Well, congrats on that. And then again, Jeff wants us to entertain him. So we don't know. You know what I'm gonna do for Jeff, just to start it off right. He's gonna get a metal dance. Before we get into like this topic, because we keep going over it, I do want to bring some stuff to the show that normally we usually do. So how was I know you both celebrated or got together with your families around Thanksgiving. How was it? Was it pretty good?
it was good. I was gonna say for me, the family we had invited had to cancel due to a unfortunate family emergency on their side. So then I had other families show up in their place. So
Okay.
it's kind of funny. I had backup family come. But it was a lot of fun. Really had a good time.
Okay. And then Beard, how was your Thanksgiving?
I literally ate myself into a state of pain.
Wow.
Yeah.
What does that feel like?
Well, you get to the point where you have to discreetly unbuckle your belt at the dinner table.
Okay.
And then you get to the point where you have to constantly lean back. And then you get to the point where every other word out of your mouth is, and then you go take a nap and wake up just kind of grabbing at your stomach thinking like, I'm never going to recover from this.
See, I wear stretchy pants.
I should have done that.
That's a good move. Stretchy pants. I like that.
There's that line from Nacho Libre. Sometimes a man wears stretchy pants alone in his room. It's for fun.
Hey,
So
R2, you wearing a belt there?
Stretchy pants. I mean, I like that idea. Maybe next year I'll do that. Now you both had turkey, right? Or you switch it up?
We had turkey and ham.
Okay. Well, I have a special Caps freak out for you, where someone was trying to prepare his dinner, or maybe it's a dessert, depending on what it is. So this guy was prepping a watermelon with a machete. So he was ready to get it all ready for his family's dessert to have watermelon. He wanted to show how cool he was and slice and stuff, kind of like Fruit Ninja.
I'm not gonna lie, this looks like this is Beard's neighbor behind him.
This is not a jump scare, by the way, Beard. So hopefully you'll be okay. But if you're a little queasy,
is this an amputee video?
I don't know.
Sure
Just
feels
watch.
like it.
Oh. Anytime that dude waves now, he's going to be holding up a peace sign.
I knew that was coming.
Look at that total look of nonchalance on her face. She's like, "What?"
Well, she can't see what happened.
Now we can't eat the watermelon.
I mean, he whacked it right there.
Oh. Honey, somebody put a couple fingertips in our watermelon. We're going to need to take this back to the store. It is somebody who's not being stupid like that, just had an accident with a pull top can when I was a kid. That was a significant cut to get that much of an instant liquid reaction, shall we say.
I'm pretty sure you lost a pinky.
I've sliced a vessel on one of my fingers, and it still took longer than that to... Oh.
Don't do that at home, folks. Unless you're a professional. I worry about you, R2. You got a lot of knives in your house.
Yeah, I do. Nothing bad has happened yet. So.
All right. So now we're gonna get back to why everyone's here. I'm glad all your Thanksgiving was not like that, gentlemen's.
Oh, how was your Thanksgiving?
Oh, it was pretty good. Had fun. Yeah, it was the first time in Texas, and we had more people than normal, so it was good, and more family also. So it was.
Did you have turkey?
We did. Not watermelon though. So that was not me. All right. So today we're going to focus on 5 conspiracy theories about who kind of maybe was a part or ahead of or maybe planned the JFK assassination. One we kind of talked about already on our, like I said, we talked about on our 11/22/63 review, which you can find on After the Weekend. We did that review already, and that one was a sole shooter, correct? They didn't really talk about multiple people. However, they did talk about, is the FBI involved? Was the CIA involved? And it was just mostly in that show. It was mostly just a sole political crazy man, like I guess you would say.
Yeah.
So that's their route they went. They didn't really get into the whole CIA is gonna get him to do it and stuff like that. So
yeah, they kind of touched on it. I imagine the book fills that out a little bit more, and the show definitely has me wanting to read it. So
yeah, it could be a good book, and a lot of people have said it it's better than the show. So, which is usually the case. So yeah, it was 60 years ago on November 22nd, and it was President John F. Kennedy was the 35th president. He actually was, if I'm doing my math correctly, he was the 4th president to be assassinated in America, which no one talks about, by the way. I always forget about that.
He was also the youngest president ever elected too.
He was the youngest president to be elected, and he was he was the 4th to be assassinated. The last. Yes, the last. There was an attempt on Ronald Reagan, but he survived. But no, he was. I think there was a couple other attempts on other people too, but he was the last one. Let's see here. So this article is going to cover some of the 5, like I said. However, really, the lone gunman has kind of been what the government says it was. It was Lee Harvey Oswald. That's what it is. There was a commission, the Warren Commission talked about that. And then there was a case or trial to counteract that we're going to talk about on After the Weekend as well, with that movie JFK, where they cover, there was maybe 3 gunmen. So we'll get in that too. But it's amazing how this story is. It's almost like, and I think the reason why a lot of people say there's a lot of theories on JFK's assassination is because the previous 3 were close up. Like,
yeah. I mean, everybody, yeah, it was a close shot.
Yeah, everybody
Lincoln.
was. Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say it was Lincoln, right, who was shot behind from the back of his head, and then I can't think of the two other, but I do know that
Yeah.
they were close. And even like, well, I was gonna say Teddy Roosevelt. There was an attempt on him. He was shot up close, and then he gave a speech before he had any medical attention.
Well, we do have a bonus on this episode where we are going to talk about those other three and how it impacted the world of politics. But yeah, those three, they were all close up, so everyone knew it was this dude or this guy or this gentleman that did it. But the real thing about JFK is that he was so far away. It was long range rifle, and it was like almost impossible to do. That's why people get into the world of theories on this. So the first one here is what some people lean to, and it's Cuba, because at that time there was the Cuban Missile Crisis, where there was supposedly nuclear weapons literally off the coast of Florida, and we had no idea if they were going to launch them anytime. And we had embargoes. We closed down the border for them. We did all kinds of. So people were really, really upset about that. So this one here, 1961, the Kennedy administration approved the Bay of Pigs invasion, which they cover that in the movie JFK. A covert attempt to topple Fidel Castro's troublesome left-wing regime in Cuba, backed by the CIA. So there, some of them say like the people from this Bay of Pigs invasion were just upset, and they came to this country and went after the man who orchestrated it. So have you heard about this one?
Yeah, I mean, the thought is that they were either explicitly told or it was implied that they were going to get a lot more American support. Instead, it was more kind of like the CIA said, "Oh yeah, we totally got your back," and then they just booked it and left them out there to dangle in the wind.
Yeah, we've done that a lot to some places.
No.
But like I said, they blame Kennedy himself for the Cuban exiles, and he, like you said, Beard, he refused to provide critical air support during the invasion. Some conspiracy theorists believe a contingency of anti-Castro Cubans seeking refuge of the Bay of Pigs fiasco orchestrated the assassination, perhaps in a collaboration with the CIA. Hey, what's up, Rogue? And we're going to talk about the movie, but the movie JFK kind of covers this event.
Yeah. Well, it was, kind of talked about that the CIA really wanted a war with Cuba, and Kennedy didn't want that. And
well, yeah, because there was before this time. I don't know if you know this. Cannoli might, since he's part of the Mafia. There was a lot of rum runners between Cuba and the U.S. during Prohibition, and when Prohibition was lifted, Cuba was a pretty happening place where the mob still kind of went there, controlled. It was almost like Vegas before Vegas, and where a lot of people went there to do things they couldn't do in the U.S., where it was just fun in some people's mind. Well, when all this was happening with the Fidel, he shut all that down. And I'm sure there were some Mafia folks that are pretty upset about that, to where, hey, you should have done a little more to get that back.
Well,
or something.
I mean, CIA just hated Fidel, and for quite a while too, Fidel would like go into Florida a lot as well, and like almost kind of taunt him that like, hey, I'm visiting the U.S.
Yeah. Rogue wants cigars from Cuba. He's the closest one to it, so he can probably get them.
Okay. I'll be very brief. I won't derail the entire conversation. All the good cigar making families fled the country and established farms in Central America. Any Cuban cigars you get after those families fled even if they use the same names, the government took over the names, and they're really terrible cigars.
Wow.
So Beard, real quick, what's the best Cuban cigar that's not from Cuba?
It's a matter of taste. You can't put me on the spot like that.
Well, just what's a fair thing to be like, whether it's, your absolute favorite or not, you can't go wrong with one of these guys.
Oh, boy. Any of the brands that are run by like AJ Hernandez, I think it is the name. There's a couple of different brands that fall under that, and they're just always solid smokes. But anyway, sorry, I just had to throw
No,
that
that's
up because
fine.
everybody
That's
thinks
okay.
that Cuban cigars are still top notch. They have not been top notch since that stock ran out.
There you go. You hear that here from
AJ Hernandez sounds like the whitest Cuban person ever. I'm sorry.
Maybe, you don't know.
Sounds like a baseball player. So an alternative theory with the Cubans is that pro-Castro Cubans conspired to kill Kennedy, an act of Marxist aggression against the West. Some believe that Lee Harvey Oswald, the one who was arrested for the shooting, a lifelong Marxist involved with the pro-Castro Fair Play for Cuba committee, may have been part of such a conspiracy. This possibly made a unlikely resurgence in the media in 2016. So, but it's weird because I've seen this a couple of times too. In 2016, when Donald Trump referred to a tabloid story alleging that the Cuban father of Senator Ted Cruz had been associate of Oswald's. I've seen that twice. I don't remember that, but I've seen that twice.
There was a period of time where either Ted Cruz or his dad were involved with every heinous murder in the last 100 years.
He is a Zodiac. Remember that?
Maybe
That's right.
Maybe he's a time traveler.
Could be.
It's funny, right? What the media kind of laps onto. But yeah, I mean, this one does make a little sense, right? It's not too far fetched that this could happen, right? Either one, pro or the exiles. I mean,
well, I think so. Just in general, before we get into the other ones, I think you'll kind of find a through line with these is that Kennedy was insanely popular, but what comes opposite of insanely popular is insanely disliked.
Yeah, and we've seen that with
polarizing person.
Yeah, we've seen that with our actual Donald Trump, and we've seen that with.
I'm kind of shocked by this conspiracy here. I had no idea that Big Feet killed Kennedy with the CIA.
Yeah, I saw that. I was going to wait until...
Why do you think they went into hiding afterwards? Nobody's seen them since.
I thought he said my people, meaning the Italians. Who knows? I had to drop a give a like. Have a good one. Thanks, Dempsey. I appreciate that. Hang out for a little bit, like 5 minutes. That'd be great. Or 3, if you want. That way YouTube thinks you watched me, but that would be fantastic. But yeah, this one if someone told me if 20 years from now when I'm 60 and finally everything comes out and they say this is it, I would be like, okay, that makes sense. That's not too far-fetched. I think I would be okay with this one. But you're right though, Beard. Kennedy was loved, but he was also extremely hated, sort of like some of the politicians that we've had in the last 10 years. I remember I was watching a movie, the movie about the recent Hoffa movie with, and we'll talk about this because he's involved in this too. Jimmy Hoffa, he hated Kennedy because he was a part of the unions, and him and the Kennedys were going after the unions. And there's a scene in that movie where Al Pacino plays Jimmy Hoffa, and it's on this day. It's when this happens, everybody's in shock. They're at a bar and they're like, "Oh my god, I can't believe this happened!" And Jimmy Hoffa's in the back corner, saying, kind of smiling and excited that this Kennedy was like. And that happened. There were people that were okay with this, that lived in this country.
I mean, right? Not living during this time in U.S. history. I do feel like, though, right now we're living through the closest that you could compare it to in terms of just political climate and culture climate.
Yeah. I would agree with that. There's a 50-50 on both sides here.
I mean, just the 60s were just so volatile. I mean,
it's almost like it's a loop.
It is. It's
Except this time they've got internet and social media to spy on us.
Oh, okay.
So,
A little curmudgeonly there.
This traffic is slow, so there must be like a bunch of moose crossing the road.
Oh yeah, be careful of the moose. So the second theory that most people will talk about is the CIA, and they were somewhat mentioned in the Cuban exiles as well.
I mean, during this period of time, they had their fingers in basically every single pie that they could think of.
Yeah, this one says that could the Kennedy assassination have been an inside job orchestrated by the CIA? That's the question here. Conspiracy theorists point out to the friction which developed between the president and the agency after the Bay of Pigs. Kennedy was allegedly so furious with the agency handling of the operation, he vowed to splinter the CIA in thousands of places. Now, they do mention this also in the JFK movie, but I've heard this one before where he was so determined to just destruct the CIA as well. So I guess that would make people upset, right? Some of these people were very well-known spies from World War II, probably even World War I, and they probably had some solid footing in the government where they can just do whatever they wanted, right? Or make decisions anyway. And him saying that you're no longer going to do that, I could see some people being upset about that. What do you think about this one, guys?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like that one's very plausible. Though I kind of have a slightly different theory. But just
Well, he fired. He says here he fired the long-serving CIA boss, Alan Dulles, prompting some to suspect Dulles of being vengeful and a mastermind behind it all. So,
but I mean, same thing. It's like the 60s was like the CIA's playground. It sure seemed like, or at least like the start of it, because that was really kind of the start of the Cold War, and so much of just trying to one up Russia at every opportunity. So I mean, to like take that away from all these people, I mean, yeah, I could see some people being pretty upset.
Yeah, and there was another guy here, E. Howard Hunt. He was perhaps the single most notorious U.S. intelligence agency agent of the 20th century. So I'm sure he's done some crazy stuff.
Ethan Howard Hunt?
Ooh. Oh, are you saying that he's the father of someone? As well as being involved in a secret operations like Bay of the Pigs, Hunt later worked as a fixer and a political saboteur for President Richard Nixon, doing time in prison for his role in the Watergate burglary. Hunt has long been suspected of being one of the snipers who shot Kennedy, and his own family have been claimed that the elderly Hunt made a deathbed confession that the CIA had indeed planned the assassination. So this goes with the theory of like multiple shooters. So, sort of, which is interesting. I guess if you piss off these two people, someone can point the finger at these two gentlemen. So,
well, and their job being what it is, it's not exactly they can produce evidence saying, no, I was over here messing with this government, not over here planning an assassination.
Yeah,
I was over here. It's redacted.
Yeah, and maybe one day we'll know again. Supposedly, we're supposed to know by 2035 or something, and they have released some files, but not everything. So
yeah,
I don't think we'll ever know, to be honest. I think they'll just keep pushing it out.
Well, I think, yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be pushed out a little bit more. I mean, it'll come out, but it's going to come out when I almost feel like 100 years from when it happened.
Yeah, we'll all be gone and it won't matter. So.
Well, or we'll be really, really old and be like, do it.
Oh, we're going to live to be over 100? Oh, that'd be awesome. All right, maybe.
Well, we'd be 80.
100? Oh,
It's
I
a-
guess you're right.
it's
You're
a
saying
more-
100 years
it's a-
from. Oh, okay. I thought you said 100 years from now. Okay.
You can live to be 80. It's fair.
I want to be lived to 80, to be honest. But this one,
Awesome being 80.
so they say snipers. And before we jump to the next one, which is interesting one, there has been a theory of where there was multiple shooters. I have a pretty cool before let's talk about his route. So his route was interesting. So this is described or mentioned in an article that was on the 40th anniversary of this assassination, and the woman that you see here in the picture was Nellie Connolly, which was the wife of Mr. Connolly. He was the governor of Texas at that time, and he also got shot. And Beard, you've talked about this before in back behind the stage where you think there was he got shot from like a bullet or a gun inside the vehicle. You've talked about.
Well, it's thought that he got hit by something that had already passed through President Kennedy.
Yeah.
The thing that I mentioned, and it's not a very popular theory, is that like hungover and maybe poorly trained Secret Service agent fumbled a gun from the car behind, and in the panic and confusion accidentally put a round through the president, and that was the kill shot.
Okay.
But yeah, he definitely got hit with something because he was shot. Whether it came from Oswald or somebody else, or who knows.
Well, I don't know if you want to share it yet, but I did share something in the private chat that's, I feel like, worth showing to everybody too at some point.
And the one that says worth showing.
Yeah. I like to be cryptic with
yeah, this is the let me stop sharing and reshare something here. This is what the magic bullet, I'm assuming.
So yeah, this was the bullet that they found on the stretcher that Kennedy's body was on. And so that's a 6.5 millimeter Kakarna round. You know, if anybody's familiar with shooting guns, for a bullet to be shot and for it to, I think, essentially have several hits on bone, it's a pretty pristine bullet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You fire that into a watermelon and it's going to get at least a dent.
Well, in fact, there's a very famous gun YouTuber, Brandon Herrera, who took same cartridge. He fired it through like 6 5-gallon jugs of water. And I think it stopped in the 4th one. And it was more deformed than this bullet. And this is something that was just hitting plastic and water. So
do you think this bullet was planted?
Yeah. I mean,
the air quotes explanation for this was the round that went through a seat and hit Kennedy in the back, but only enough to barely break skin and then fell out, and then was found in the car by somebody later who thought, oh, this is important, walked in the hospital that was surrounded by doctors and military, and just set it on the stretcher, and nobody saw him do it.
Now, the 6.5 Kakarna round, it's known for, you know, essentially, as they would call it, keyholing, where it does kind of like once it hits, it's known to like kind of go horizontal. And you know, I think if that bullet was probably all wonky and misshapen, you might be like, wow, it was a 1 in a million shot that truly went through it, you know, so many times. Because like I said, it's known to kind of, once it kind of hits something, it really kind of starts to spin horizontally. But yeah, I mean, the fact that it's just pristine, I mean, it looks like somebody just extracted it from around, you know, from a casing.
Yeah, maybe. Perhaps. That, I mean, who knows? Like Beard, like you mentioned, it was pretty chaotic. I mean, there was multiple people injured, like the governor here. So there was probably a lot of stuff going on at the moment, and they kind of show that in 11/22, like where like there was a good amount of crowd of people around that part of the town, and it wasn't like today where there was like security. Really, it was just kind of like show up, see the president.
Yeah.
And they mentioned in the movie too. I won't ruin it too much, but the security was pretty lax. And like you said, this is the route where he comes down Houston Street, takes a left turn, and if you talk to anybody who's in the Secret Service or knows parade routes or anything like this, this shouldn't have been the route that he shouldn't have taken. Like this is not a route that most presidents would have done. The fact that he even drove around with the top down,
well, in an open vehicle.
Yeah. Can you imagine? Has anybody seen a motorcade? Have you all seen a motorcade before in your towns? You don't even know who's in those cars. They're so locked up. I mean, they may roll down the window a little bit and like wave at you, but they're solid brick SUVs, and you just assume that someone's in there, right? You don't really know.
Yep.
Which one they're in, and if you shoot that thing, it's like shooting a brick.
I mean, even then, as armored as they are, and you can't tell exactly which vehicle the VIP is in, they move pretty quick, and they keep to as many straight lines as possible.
Yeah. So they always thought there was 3 shots. And then again, this was not in a straight line. He took a left, and who knows? Maybe because it was the grassy knoll, and it is a pretty neat looking place, and maybe he just wanted to go that route. Maybe he made that decision. Who knows? The president.
I think one of the stories is that it was the governor that made the last minute change, because I'm pretty sure they were supposed to continue going straight down Main Street.
Maybe he was involved. Ooh. So as you see here, there was 3 shots. One through the oak tree here that ricocheted off into a person, and then there was the like you said, the kill shot.
The craziest thing is the fact that when the car is coming down Houston Street, no shot was taken.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he could have got him head on. Who knows? Maybe it's so many weird things with this, right? And that's why this is so interesting to talk about. There's so many avenues that you can take to decide, well, okay, why didn't Oswald shoot when he was straight ahead? Was it because there was something in the way? Was he not ready? Was he just kind of nervous first, right? Like, am I really going to do this? But basically, yeah, this is the route here. And from what I've seen from the pictures, I haven't visited it since I've been in Texas, but the grassy knoll, they've kept it pretty almost the same as it was back then. There's even an X on the concrete where it happened. Yeah. So this is another view of the route. Where you see this is like the 3 shooters. So you have the second gunman from the Dallas, Texas building next to the Texas School Book Depository, where Lee Harvey Oswald was on the 6th floor. And then you have his shot with the fragment, and then you have a third gunman behind the fence where the cars were parked, a parking lot, and that supposedly was the kill shot that you mentioned, Rick. So
yeah,
but there was apparently 4 shots, 3 hits, 1 miss. I guess there was a 4th one as well, but according to
I think the idea of the 4th one comes from the fact that shot 2 and 3 happened much quicker together than is possible with a bolt action rifle.
Yeah, and he had to be pretty quick to do that.
Well, that rifle too is not. I want to say it's not the smoothest of action in terms of
We had to be
getting
quick, and you had to
getting
be
those
a real
shots off.
good sharpshooter.
It's definitely doable, but I mean, it's very few people are able to get those off, and not only that, there's even like claim too that like his scope that he had on the rifle was defective, like it was not, um, you know, I'm assuming there was probably like a lens off, so it didn't track true. And even back then, like older scopes too were not made like they are today. um, I mean, like the view, your view looking through them was far smaller and tighter,
Right.
than something that you can get today, where it's a much bigger, wider view. So, um,
And there are witnesses that say they heard 3 gunshots or saw smoke from a fence or some
yeah,
else.
Given the time period, anytime that somebody says I saw smoke, I'm just thinking that's a dude smoking a cigarette. You just didn't see him. I mean, because even the powder used for guns then was closer to modern smokeless powders, and even though it would produce some, I can't imagine that it would have produced a lot, like people kind of describe. But that may be getting off into the weeds.
Yeah, well, I mean, the other thing too, right? Is it smoke, or is it like, is it debris being kicked up though, like dust?
Yeah.
Because well, at this time though, it is smokeless powder. I mean, smokeless powder, I want to say, kind of became the standard in the early 1900s. So
yeah,
it wouldn't be old, an older type of gunpowder. The only thing where I kind of like wonder with there, or I kind of have like a slight bit of doubt with the grassy knoll is, I don't know why, it just seems like there would have been potentially somebody else that would have been hit, like a bystander. Do you know what I mean? Because it was,
well, one guy got hit by a piece of
but he
shrapnel.
was, but the angle that he was at, it, right, they think it came from the round hitting the oak tree and ricocheting. I mean, that is kind of all in the same direction, but I'm just saying that kind of that crossfire there, essentially, because there were people on that opposite side of the road, that kind of like park grass area, that was kind of open. I've always kind of wondered, like, was there, would there have been bullet holes on like a building across the street? I mean, unless it just hit into the ground, but yeah.
So trip to Dallas with a metal detector?
Yeah. I'm sure people have done that. So,
oh yeah.
The third theory, and a lot of people say this too. This is probably one of the most I hear when I talk to people about this, is the Mafia. Allegedly, JFK sniper Lee Harvey Oswald was himself shot dead live on television while being escorted out of police station a few days after the assassination. His killer was Dallas nightclub owner Jack Ruby, which he was known to be part of the Mafia, who claimed he'd done it because he was horrified by Kennedy's murder and wanted to spare Mrs. Kennedy the trauma of the trial. However, many conspiracy theorists believe Ruby was actually a Mafia hitman who killed Oswald to prevent him from spilling the beans on mob's involvement in the assassination. There are a few key reasons why theorists believe the Mafia took out JFK. One of those is, one was angered over Kennedy's actions during the Bay of Pigs. We mentioned this before, and failure to get rid of Castro. Mentioned this in the other one. Another reason was the mob's outrage over the exploits of Robert Kennedy, who had been mounting an aggression crackdown on organized crime since being appointed Attorney General by his brother. Bobby's anti-mob crusade was apparently seen as personal betrayal by the likes of Chicago outfit boss Sam. I'm going to mispronounce this, so if you're listening, I'm sorry. Sam Gacciana, who allegedly used his influence to help get Kennedy elected in the 1960s. So the Kennedys, if you didn't know this, are linked to the mobs all the way back to Prohibition. His father was a bootlegger. He was also a politician, but he was a bootlegger first. He helped.
That's how the Kennedys got rich. I mean, it was even
Yeah.
prior to his dad.
He knew people as Al Capone, some of the other 5 families in New York. He rubbed elbows. His father was very involved in a lot of this, and he probably made deals that he maybe he didn't pay for or should have, or didn't keep promises. Because people didn't realize how involved the mob was between the 40s and the 50s as far as with politics. They were really involved with that. And the 60s was just, I think, the peak of the mafia.
I mean, the mob had been essentially hired by the CIA to guard the eastern seaboard during World War II in case of a Nazi invasion.
Yeah. So they're all kind of tied together.
Yeah. I mean, you're going to see, like I said, you're going to see the CIA messing with pretty much every one of these theories is a potential, because, I mean, even as the mob kind of faded out of popular acceptance, so to speak, the CIA kept using them to do dirty work, because the CIA can't technically, legally operate on American soil. So they would often use other proxies to do it.
One other thing too that this is kind of going back a little bit, but in the CIA was really upset with Kennedy about this, but the CIA wanted to stage terrorist attacks on the U.S. during this time, and Kennedy was like, "No,"
because they wanted to go to war with a certain country, because Cuba, because there was money involved if they controlled that area. And it sounds very familiar, right? A lot of people have theories about
cigars.
A lot of people think 9/11 was something like that. There are theories out there that 9/11 was an inside thing where they wanted to go to war with Iraq or Afghanistan, so they did this. So who knows? And we'll probably never know. It's a rabbit hole you can go down for hours, and you'll never leave your office or your room, and you'll just eat potato chips and Mountain Dew for like weeks.
So this is what JT did last week.
This is another one, though. If someone were to tell me like 20 years from now, yeah, the mafia and CIA were kind of involved, I would believe this one. I would be like, okay,
oh, absolutely.
That makes a lot of sense, just because of his father and his family's past, and the fact that they were covering up that Kennedy was going around town with Marilyn Monroe and everything like that. So it's just the mom knew a lot of stuff back then. They had their hands in a lot.
Happy birthday, Mr. President.
Are you gonna sing that?
Nope.
Are you sure?
Pretty sure.
Okay. Another one. This is the one that I was kind of always I scratched my head at. It makes me kind of think, because a lot of people theorize that this could happen with other presidents and vice presidents. President LBJ or Lyndon Johnson. One of the more outlandish suspects named by conspiracy theories is LBJ, Kennedy's vice president, who was sworn in as the new commander-in-chief that day in Dallas. Johnson was certainly one of the most ruthless and cutthroat politicians of his age. This coupled with rumors that Kennedy was poised to drop Johnson as he's running mate in 1964 election, and has led some theories to believe that the power-hungry Texan orchestrated the assassination in collaboration with super-rich Dallas oil barons. So there you go. He wanted to get super rich off of oil, and he was mad that he wasn't president. So there you go.
This is the one that I believe.
You believe this one?
Well, not only that, but after all of this, LBJ became insanely wealthy for the time, and LBJ was a massive asshole. I'm not going to sugarcoat it at all. I mean, it's the only.
Yeah, he has some interesting things about even the civil rights stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, not even getting into that, but just there's a lot of shady business with LBJ2. I mean, it's believed that he killed one of his sisters.
Allegedly.
Yeah,
YouTube.
allegedly. I said believed. But I mean,
these are all theories. YouTube. These are all theories.
I mean, if anything, I almost go. It started with him, and I almost go. It was multiple other groups that handled the task. If that makes sense, like it was.
Yeah, he probably was like, hey, I want this done. Just get it done.
Well, if you get this done, I'll do. It was definitely a quid pro quo with a lot of people. I feel like, because he kept Vietnam going, and Kennedy was all ready to essentially end Vietnam in 2 years. Within 2 years, have everybody pulled out.
And we mentioned that in our review of 11/22 over there at After the Weekend, where Al, the diner owner, mentions this. He's like, if JFK survives, we don't go to Vietnam. We get out of Vietnam.
Yeah, we're not in Vietnam as long as we were.
Yep.
And it would have been, it would have ended 10 years sooner if Kennedy had not died, or at least that's the speculation. And, governments and politicians make a lot of money off of conflicts.
They do?
Yeah, that's the word on the street, right?
Yeah, I mean, some people there have joked or kind of air quoted that. I already highlighted that. I heard that Kennedy's secretary made mention of LBJ being on it.
Kennedy had a secretary named Lincoln, and Lincoln's secretary was named Kennedy.
Okay, is that real?
It's true. I'm not lying.
So as far as LBJ, I don't know if I buy into him kind of being like the instigator, being such a publicly known politician. Even if he was ruthless, I think he would be more of an opportunist. Like somebody knew he was kind of disgruntled, and like somebody with connections to the CIA start saying, "Hey, so what if A, B, C, or D were to happen?" And he would just kind of like, "Well, isn't that interesting?" And I kind of feel like he would more take advantage of learning about something already happening and maybe adding some like support behind the scenes. But I have a hard time believing that he would just be like the top dog planning everything.
Even with what you're saying, it's still, though, that's influencing him, but still everything trickling down from him. Like, not that he like was like the sole planner of all this, but I mean, I think it though was orchestrated through him.
Right. Well, yeah, maybe. I agree with Beard. Maybe he wasn't like the planner, but he maybe had enough power to say, look, I can make sure you don't get caught, and we make Lee the patsy, because a lot of people think he is. He even said it. I'm the patsy. I'm not the dude.
Well, I'm not going to say, but getting into this one, like I even feel like this one.
Well, we're gonna. I'm just
gonna effect from. Mine.
Yeah. Well, I'm just gonna pause it right here because I don't want to get too involved in the fifth one, because we are going to cover this theory on our review of After the Weekend of the movie JFK, and we'll definitely get into. But this is another one where there's another, a very high elitist Clay Shaw had something to do with the assassination of JFK. But I don't want to get too involved in this one.
There is a sixth one.
Oh yeah,
yeah. The green gunman.
Who's the green gunman?
Look at those guns at the end.
Oh my. Yeah. So everyone, yes, the fifth one is about the Shaw trial. But if you want to hear more about that theory, we're gonna do a review of the movie JFK about that over there on After the Weekend. So if you want to check that out, please go see that review. I'll have the links in the description of the channel and all that stuff. So once the live stream's done, how do you think about that? What do you think that little handoff to get to be continued?
Dum dum dum.
Should I get a wanna?
Yeah!
I think so.
If he was around, Kennedy wouldn't have died.
Who?
Cap.
Well, if you look at the movie Endgame, he apparently let it happen. So
Yeah, he just let all that stuff happen.
he let all of it happen because he was getting his shield wet. He was too
He was given the Peggy Carter, is what you're saying?
yeah, he was too involved.
Hey, Zeus, your big stud!
That's me, honey.
Take me to bed or lose me forever.
Show me the way home.
Yeah. He's my grandfather. Okay. Anyways,
Wait, Gooses or Cap?
Steve Rogers. Yeah. So, anyways, just so you know, I know there's a lot of serious talk here, so I want to break it up a little bit. We're going to go a little bit over the hour. It wouldn't be a late night with Cap with if it wasn't for some bad graphic design. So I do have some funny, interesting political posters. All right, so you've all done bad graphic design before. Rick, you've hosted your own, so Lord knows what you're going to see next.
Well, we saw somebody lose the palm of their hand about an hour ago, so can't get any worse than that, can it?
All right. So one of the people that was around, he actually lost to Kennedy was Nixon. He had quite a good. He became president. He had his own little scandals, but he also had his political campaign was Nixon's the one. This is a pregnant lady with what's that?
Sure, it wasn't knocked up by Nixon.
This is real. You know what this is a real ad.
Name for Richard is.
I don't know if this is like an ad for him or against him, but this was a real ad out and about. So, as you know, politicians like to do ads against each other, so this could have been one of those.
If only we had somebody in the chat that was alive during the 60s. Too bad Ro didn't show up.
Yeah, Ro could have been alive. Pops might have been. I think he was younger. There you go. Nixon's the one. And she's about ready to pop. So I like the color choice, pink. It fits. So
yeah.
The next one is also related to Kennedy in some way. Actually, in a lot of way. It's his brother, and this one was just kind of silly. This is Bobby is my choice in '68. This is his political ad. Why would you approve this?
I look at that and I'm like, hey, you guys.
Like, why would
somebody was drunk at the fair one day, had a caricature done of them, and thought this guy is amazing, and hired him?
I mean, it's a character, and it was popular, I guess, back then. It does have the '60s font and flair, but why would you?
Color choice is interesting.
That looks like a sign you would have seen on the side of the Killer Clowns from Outer Space spaceship.
Yeah, why? I don't know. Why would you approve this? But hey, maybe he thought it was funny. I don't know, but I thought it was.
What's
clever.
The worst that could happen to me?
Okay. Really?
Oh,
really,
dude! It happened in '68. Come on.
Oh my gosh!
It's
all right.
Soon.
So the next one again, they for some reason the ads got really crazy from the '60s on to the '80s. The presidential campaign ads were pretty stoic, nice, like epically drawn. Everything was cool about them, but for some reason after the '60s, everything got weird. But did you know that JC can save America? So this is Jimmy Carter's political poster.
That was real.
Yes.
What?
That looks like that's like the cover of like an 8-track tape.
It does.
No, this is real.
Oh my god.
If you don't
And
believe
this
me,
had-
Back
You
when
don't
Should
believe
be
me.
done with like
was the-
old-fashioned film, so this took a lot of effort to layer all that on there, unless they got him to put on a fake beard.
again,
I'm like, when did he lead Alabama?
if you don't believe me, you can look it up. This was on there. So yes, JC can save
Wow.
America. Now, everyone likes to put signs in their yard, right? Some people do, who they're voting for. You can do that. That's your right to do. You can pick whoever you want. This guy picked himself. This is Dan Payton, not running for anything, just wanted a sign.
I'd vote
Oh, I
for him.
kind of want to do that now.
Yeah, I think this was right around Obama because it has the strip there, like how his logo was. But yeah,
I like that. I like that a lot.
would it say Beard of Liberty, not running for anything, just wanted? You know, how many people would write you in?
I bet I could get a couple. Yeah.
Nicole says I'm kind of waiting for JC to pass, especially after his wife. Yeah, he's like the oldest sitting president, I think.
Ah,
I think him and
No,
Bush
he is.
one is still around
Bush-
too.
no, didn't Bush one pass away?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
You can double check, but I don't think so. There you go. Lighten the mood a little bit with some bad graphic design. And remember, people, if
Yeah,
you
he died 5 years ago.
oh well, geez, look at this.
Tomorrow will be 5 years.
Oh really?
Yes.
Well, are you sure?
I got one vote.
Okay. That's just
So,
I'm just
No.
putting live chat proof. You can go click on that link and
hey, vote for you. Good job. I see it. Okay. Well, like always, if you do if you are enjoy those bad graphic designs, let me know. And if you see anything around, and you want to share it with me, you can. Beard has showed me some. You've sent me some, so those might pop up soon.
I was gonna say I think your motto should be a vote for Steve is a vote for liberty.
Ooh, wow.
Mm.
Rick should be your campaign manager.
Except I'm not actually running for anything, so I don't actually want to.
It doesn't matter. You can fake it until you make it, and then it's like you're in there. So, but now I did want to cover another side topic, and this will be split up into a separate video. So this other topic I want to talk about was there were other presidents. Most people talking about JFK being assassinated, but there were actually 3 others. Lincoln, but there were other 2 that you always kind of forget, and I want to kind of cover those 3 in this video. So the there's, like I said, there was and they each one kind of changed the landscape of America, to be honest, and it's pretty surprising. Rick, you said you didn't know most of these. Obviously we all know the first one, which is Abraham Lincoln assassinated. He was the first to be assassinated. His assassination dramatically changed the Reconstruction era of America. So it was like right after the Civil War. He was assassinated just 5 days after General Robert Lee surrendered to the U.S. So a lot of people were still kind of grumpy, upset about that. Booth and his conspirators had initially planned to kidnap him to save the Confederate States, but as the Confederacy faltered, Booth's thoughts turned to murder. Booth may have decided to act on his altered after Lincoln endorsed giving the right to vote to African Americans, men who had served in the Union Army. The assassination of President Lincoln was just one of the part of the large plot to decapitate the federal government of the U.S. after the Civil War. Lincoln never lived to enact this policy. He died the following morning on April 15th, 1865. His successor, Andrew Johnson, assumed office and proceeded over the Reconstruction. So that, I mean, people didn't want this to happen, right? Still, even though the Civil War was going on, but there was a whole other impact to his presidency, his assassination. Like, I think even a lot more people got a little bit more worried about the president kind of being out and about. But yeah, they were very upset that he was going to free these men who served in the army. So at least it got done, I would assume.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But this is one of the most popular ones.
Oh yeah.
And again, this is one people know for sure because when Booth shot him, he jumped on the stage and was like, "Yeah, I did it."
Well, he
And
said
he completely viewed himself as a hero.
well, didn't he shout "Sic Semper Tyrannis"
He
Yeah.
did.
as he jumped off like the balcony?
Yeah.
I think part of the reason he didn't really get away is he messed up his leg by jumping.
Yeah.
So to continue on, Johnson, a congressman, a former slaveholder of Tennessee, and the only Southern senator to remain loyal to the Union during the Civil War, favored lenient measures on remitting Southern states to the Union during the Reconstruction era. He proponent of states' rights. Johnson gained amnesty to most former Confederates and allowed Southern states to elect new governments as a result of new state governments formed across the South and enacted black codes. These reconstructive measures were designed to repress the recently freed slave population soon, and many African Americans had little choice but not to continue working for the Southern plantations. So, I mean, he let them he kind of forgave them, right? It was like in a way, he said that you're welcome to be still part of the U.S.
I think the thought process is that if Lincoln had handled it, that he would have been a little bit more strict on federal restrictions on what states could enact and not, whereas Johnson was more of a like it said there, a states' rights sort of person.
Yeah,
but for the time, I mean, like right now in my time, and we have to kind of look at all these things, like the history and how they thought about things and how they viewed society and how we view society. Like right now, I'm a big states' rights dude. If states want to do a certain thing their way, if as long as it doesn't violate the federal government or anybody else's civil rights, go ahead. But for that period of time, granting that much freedom was unfortunate because they still cracked down on people completely based on race, which ultimately is a violation of civil rights, and ultimately most of that stuff would be thrown out. Whatever still remains as far as just part of the population and society is different. But that's kind of one of those things I'm torn on. I'm like, yeah, states' rights. And oh boy, the states were really kind of awful then.
Well, that's the give and take, right? That's the double-edged sword where our country gives. We give some certain freedoms. There's a good part of that, and there's a bad part of that. And then where do you draw the line of what's acceptable? So yeah, a lot of people think if Lincoln wasn't assassinated and he was able to serve longer, he could have served another term because there still wasn't that rule where he couldn't have. He probably could have served 3. He probably would have changed probably America, what we even see it as today. Like maybe some of these states don't even exist. Maybe they're different, or they're some other stuff that could have happened. So who knows? But maybe Booth had a time traveler with him. He knew what was going to happen. Now this one I didn't know of. I always kind of forget about. James A. Garfield's death changed the system of political patronage. So
Monday killed him.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Just a jokester.
Took me a moment.
Yeah, I know. On July 2nd, 1881, President James A. Garfield was shot twice in the arm and the back. Let's see here. What did Alaska? Okay, let's hold on. As some doctors pointed out, Lincoln was probably going to die within a year anyway because of, maybe. Who knows? People think certain people were going to pass away too, but they did 5 years before I thought they did. So, Garfield got shot in the arm and the back as he entered the old Baltimore Potomac Railroad Station in Washington, D.C. The former Ohio congressman who was en route to Massachusetts to give a Independence Day speech had been president for just 4 months at the time. Garfield survived the initial injury, but died 2 months later from severe infection. The infection likely was the result of unsanitary surgical practices as doctors attempt to remove the bullet from his back. Charles, again, I'm going to probably mispronounce this, Guthrie, the man who shot Garfield, was a successful lawyer and preacher who stalked the president around D.C. for weeks before the attack. Months earlier, he had written a speech on Garfield's behalf. The speech was largely ignored, but Guthrie had informed the delusion that it had been decided factor of the president's victory. Okay. Seeking patronage for the vital assistance he had provided the president, Guthrie insisted he should be awarded an ambassadorship in Paris. He turned to revenge when he was denied the post. The assassination of Garfield.
Adobe Wall's newest location on Hillside takes center stage as the most.
Sorry, that video was playing. Garfield's successor, Chester Arthur, signed.
Not a sponsor of the channel, by the way.
No. Where I've lost myself now. Whatever. The assassination of Garfield, the disgruntled public officer seeker, became the impetus of the Pennington Civil Service Act. Garfield's successor, Chester Arthur, signed the act in 1883, which reformed the civil service system and established a principle that federal jobs should be awarded based on their merit rather than their political patronage or patronage. So there you go.
That's good because no other federal job has ever been given because they like a person ever since.
Is this interesting that there was an act about that and no one's following it? Maybe.
Yeah. Government's gonna government.
So Garfield was shot and he sort of survived because and since there wasn't really great hospitals at the time, he passed away. He would have lived maybe today. And then because this one guy was just mad because he didn't get a job that he wanted.
I mean, I kind of read as you were reading that, I'm thinking like he was a President Garfield stan, like he was delusional and thought they were better friends than they actually were.
I'm just guessing that doctor shouldn't have licked the knife before he tried to remove the bullet.
Oh my god. Yeah,
better before than after.
This one, it's not so like there's not a lot of crazy theories right on this one. That's why I think that's why a lot of people forget about it. I don't think it had much of an impact, maybe, but it's interesting to think that this person was so upset he lost a job that he wanted to assassinate a president, and then now they have
like I said, he was like he just kind of reads as somebody who was kind of, now granted this is history and the winners write history, that kind of thing, but he kind of reads as somebody who was delusional and thought they kind of had like a relationship, like kind of like modern stalker relationship where they like that time I showed up outside your house and you had to tell me don't ever show up here again. I mean,
yeah,
I swear I've never.
I thought
been
you
there.
were a garden gnome.
JT tells me that every week, and I still show up. So.
Yeah. The third assassination was William McKinley. His assassination actually created the Secret Service. So maybe they were tired of presidents being assassinated, that they probably should have bodyguards.
Yeah, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. Fool me thrice, I'm going to create a law enforcement agency.
Yeah, they probably thought Booth was crazy. It'll never happen again. And then this crazy stalker comes out of nowhere. But yeah, anarchist Lee. Man, they have some interesting names, don't they? Leon Kurzweil's.
We'll just call him Leo.
Leo. Shot President Leon shot President William McKinley on September 6, 1901. McKinley was shaking hands at a public reception at the Pan American Expedition, a fair in Buffalo, New York. Leo or Leon, concealed his weapon in a handkerchief and shot McKinley twice in the stomach at close range. McKinley died of his wounds 8 days later on September 14th. Now, Kennedy died within hours, and then Lincoln died on the spot.
I'm pretty sure they only declared Kennedy. Like it took them like 15, 20 minutes to declare. But anything you've seen, you're pretty certain that he was done in the car.
McKinley's assassination led to creation of modern Secret Service. Before McKinley's death, president security was lax and often piecemeal. So there you go. After his death, Secret Service was originally a branch of the Treasury Department created to investigate counterfeit currencies. Now, there's a TV show out there, The Warrior, I believe, where they talk about Secret Service coming to San Francisco, and it's this group of people before they were the Secret Service, became the president's dedicated permanent security detail. McKinley's successor, Theodore Roosevelt, was widely regarded as the first modern president. Roosevelt increased the power of the executive branch by enforcing strong antitrust legislation at home, while simultaneously increasing the influence of the United States global politics abroad. So there you go. And Theodore Roosevelt's like one of our top presidents.
Well, he created like the national park system, and
he had a teddy bear.
Yeah.
So who knows? McKinley would have made. I know McKinley opened the Hoover Dam. I believe he's the one that sanctioned that one. So he was big on the park stuff too. So he might have done the same, maybe, but maybe not as grand as Roosevelt did. But it's interesting.
I mean, at the very least, it established a dedicated, more stringent protection detail for the president. Because who knows how many more of these we would have had before somebody finally decided to.
Well, here you go. Nicole's got some facts. One of the presidents used Al Capone's car. Yeah, a lot of these presidents were linked to Mafia. Yep, Franklin.
Theodore Roosevelt encountered Bigfoot too, by the way.
He did. There is a story about that. But it's interesting. It took three assassinations to finally put some type of security around the leader of our country, right? So,
yeah, at that point they finally figured out we should actually put some officers around and not just like the president's bros that say they can handle it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then obviously the fourth one is one we just focused on in the conspiracy theories, but it was John F. Kennedy's murder helped usher the civil rights era in the 60s. As we know, his assassination took place on November 22nd, 1963. This article says 2 shots hit the president in the head, killing him. 1 bullet struck Connolly, who survived assassination attempt. Oswald was shot and killed 2 days later by Dallas, like we said, Jack Ruby in the other segment of this live stream. Before this death, though, Kennedy had proposed civil rights legislation that would outlaw discrimination based on race, religion, sex, and national origin. The legislation was controversial and had stalled in Congress before Kennedy's death. However, Kennedy's assassination changed the political dynamics of the civil rights movement. His successor, LBJ, who was 3 cars behind, took advantage of the national outpouring of sympathy after Kennedy's death to push through the historic Civil Rights Act and Voting Rights Act, which helped end radical racial segregation and provide greater protections to all voters and of all kinds, even black voters. So now this is interesting, right? Who knows if JFK would have even gotten this done if he didn't.
Well, this is kind of one of the things in this article. I looked at it ahead of time that I kind of disagree with, because when you delve into different aspects of alternate history, the civil rights movement everything was headed in the right direction anyway. It might have taken another year or 2, or maybe even another president, but it was going to happen.
Yeah.
And I mean, and Kennedy was, liked enough and charismatic enough that he probably could have gotten pushed through anyway. Like I said, it just may have taken a little bit longer, but the fact that his death hinged on that becoming law, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that.
Okay, you don't agree about this impact. What?
I
That's
mean,
fine.
I'm not saying that his death didn't impact anything. Obviously, he was a very beloved president and everything like that. I just don't think that it was the latchkey moment that changed everything for that.
Yeah, and I
movie.
think, and we talked about this with the theories. I think LBJ, like we said, he was kind of cutthroat, and I think he used this. He kind of used this to do certain things, like, hey, Kennedy probably would have done this. It's too bad that he passed away, and maybe he wouldn't have done it. Maybe there was something that LBJ wanted to get done, but Kennedy did not.
Yeah, I agree with Beard. I don't think that the civil rights stuff was nearly as big of a deal. I think the other things related to Cuba, Russia, Vietnam were definitely much bigger. I mean, what's really interesting, and I feel like today, I mean, it's far more looked over, but majority of Democrats were not in favor of civil rights. Kennedy was one of the few, and he got his support actually with that through Republicans. It's kind of funny. It was like,
this stream's definitely coming down now, Rick.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, it was kind of like almost like celebrities. I want to say that endorsed JFK were very much pro civil rights and pushing that. But yeah, I mean, a good chunk of the Democrats, and I want to say LBJ was one of them. That
well, he knew he knew if he didn't push that through,
he probably wouldn't have gotten reelected.
Correct. Or he wouldn't be able to do other things that he wanted to do. There's a whole nother rabbit hole you can go down on that president, but we just wanted to focus on those assassinations in our earlier segment on the theories. If you're coming in late to the video live, these will all be cut up and segment out separate videos, and hopefully even posted on Rumble. So I had fun. I know we went a little over our normal time. But this was a special episode, and it kind of ties into what we were talking about with 11/22/63 and soon the JFK movie review on After the Weekend. So I'm excited about that, to do that with you. Did you guys have fun? Did you have a good time? Except for the watermelon.
Anybody who wasn't there to see that has no idea what's going on.
They'll see it later. They'll see it later.
The watermelon.
This was a good time. As weird as it is to say this was a good time talking about such morbid stuff, it's just fascinating to kind of delve into whenever you don't have answers, especially with tragedy and people who are beloved by the populace. Everybody wants answers, and when there is none, they make their own.
It's like Bigfoot or UFOs or other things out there that people don't know. So
I mean, it still is somewhat, I feel like, relatively recent. I mean, it happened 20 years before we were all born for us, but even in comparison, it's like, wow, compared to like other things in history, that's not that far away.
Yeah.
Now, what did you think about those other three assassinations? I know most people know about Links, but did you know about the other two?
I remember the one about Garfield. I couldn't remember about McKinley. But I do remember Garfield being one that
there was one president that almost got assassinated by his wife because she was poisoning him. That might be another video at another time. So, anyways. All right. Well, I do recommend. No, I do recommend that you don't only, if you're new here, to subscribe to this channel because you'll get more stuff like this, and also go subscribe over there at After the Weekend because, like I said, we're gonna have some fun topics about or movie reviews about this and other movies you can check out. Beard, what are you doing besides hanging out with us?
I think the only thing I've got on the books right now is Thursday, 7 Central over at Roman of the Empire for another free range, kind of covering all sorts of different topics of nerddom.
Nerddom. Okay. Sounds fun.
Sure to bring your Olive Garden bread.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Tell
gotta do
Roman I said hello, and maybe one day he'll actually we'll actually have a show together. So he
that.
always
You
cancels.
both of you just have to stop poking the Olive Garden bear, because maybe then he'll actually like you enough.
Is that
What
what
do you
it
mean?
is?
He loves the memes I make of him.
All right. All right. Everyone, you have a good night. Have a safe holiday out there shopping and doing whatever. And it's been great talking about this.
Wait. Shopping or chopping?
Shopping.
Okay.
Do you need to fix your
No.
ears?
Just because that guy with the watermelon and the chopping didn't look like he had fun.
Nicole did say about Al Capone's former vehicle was a bulletproof Cadillac. $1 million. That's pretty cool.
Oh, and look, perfect timing. Jeff just got home.
Yeah, and he was entertained. All right. Well, everyone, you have a good night, and I will talk to you later. See
Good
ya.
night.